Hello, everyone. Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's episode, I will be reviewing Inferno #1 from Marvel Comics. Now, if you're familiar, or if the name sounds familiar, yes, this has been an X-Men event in the past during the Claremont run. But obviously, this is something that's new. It's completely different. It has really nothing to do with the original Inferno. Tune into our live show. We may talk a little bit about what the original Inferno X-Men event was. It has more to do with uh, the Goblin Queen and Limbo and X-Men shenanigans. But this one is a new event. It follows. This is kind of like Jonathan Hickman's um, final X-Men story uh, for the time being, at least. So I'm very excited to read. But let's go over some credits and then we'll talk about the book. Um, so Inferno #1 is written by Jonathan Hickman, illustrated by Valerio Schiti, uh, colored by David Curiel, and letters by Joe Sabino. As I mentioned, this is published by Marvel Comics. Um, so what this this comic has been kind of like a couple of years in the making. This is Hickman picking up all those little threads that are left hanging, or most of the threads that are left hanging from House of X and Powers of 10. So some of the things we're going to look at is the rise of Nimrod, and the reason why precog mutants aren't allowed to stay foot in Krakoa. We're mainly talking about Destiny too. Like Moira takes desperate steps to make sure Destiny's not resurrected. And if you're familiar with Hoxpox, you'll know why. I believe it's issue 2 or 3 of one of the two, that we get a pretty good look at why Moira wouldn't want um, Destiny around. So we also, like I said, we have plans being hatched in both Krakoa and Orcus as both sides kind of prepare. So I love the way the book just kind of kicks off very cool. Like first of all, Valerio Schiti's art is amazing. He's one of my favorite current artists on Marvel stuff, along with Pepe Larraz. I think they're both doing excellent work, especially on the X-Men books. Valerio was, I believe, doing the book with Al Ewing on Sword. I don't know if they're still doing that because they're doing this one. But yeah, if you haven't looked at all that work, I'd highly recommend it. So while we have this, we like I said, we start off real quick uh, with Emma resurrecting some mutants, Charles included. I love the little to me my X-Men. We also see the setup of the X-Men going back to Orcus, trying to specifically the X-Force, trying to take down Nimrod. So throughout this whole House of X Powers of 10 event, one of the biggest threats to mutant kind has always been the Sentinels. And Nimrod is like the top, like main ultimate Sentinel they could ever face. It's like Nimrod is self-sufficient AI, so it can prevent and anticipate anything that the mutants can kind of do. So Nimrod is definitely the ultimate mutant. So I love the art though. Let me pull that panel back up. Like Wolverine just going through Nimrod, but obviously that's not the end because I mean Nimrod is kind of like as any AI. The bodies are just kind of like there, right? It's not really a centralized body, so that gives Nimrod an advantage. Another really cool story, like I mentioned, this is very Moira centric. We hadn't really seen Moira in almost, I don't know, 2 years maybe. But here I love the expressions of this whole conversation. Like this whole conversation that they're having, it's a couple of pages long. It's really intense, and like we know that stuff's been going down. The X-Men are or Charles and the Quad Council are keeping track of Moira because she's super important to the continuance of what they're doing with Krakoa and everything. Now, I will say this book, it's not very new reader friendly. I think this is what I would call like intermediate comics or comics 102, 103, like this is not your starter course. Like, uh, especially because Jonathan Hickman's writing is usually pretty dense, um, because there's a lot of really big ideas that he likes to explore. Uh, so I would definitely not recommend this to a new reader, but I would recommend somebody go check out House of X and Powers of Ten, because that's a really good setup for all this. Like you can read that and then come straight to this. There's a lot of really good stuff in the middle, like with all the X-Men titles that I'm currently reading. But yeah, now one last panel that I wanted to show. Um, Actually, a couple more. First of all, this is just because I really love this character. We get to see my boy Doug. If you remember from uh, slight spoiler from Ten of Swords, he got married. So, and Doug has been the voice of Krakoa. So he's the only one that can pretty much understand Krakoa because of his mutant ability to communicate. Which I love Doug. I love him and the relationship with Warlock. Like, and the new mutants are just like a soft spot for me. So Doug really, uh, like he's always been one of my favorites. And I just wanted to leave you with a tease, obviously, because of all this Destiny stuff. Mystique is she's been pretty much very involved in the Quiet Council and making sure that Charles and Magneto and the Council keep their promise to bring Destiny back. But like that is the one thing that Moore doesn't want. So that sets up the big conflict. So we have two big conflicts. We have the thing against Nimrod and the Sentinels and Orcus and the whole organization there, and then that includes all the people that are helping Nimrod because they hate the mutants. And then we have internal conflict with Destiny and or Mystique trying to bring Destiny back, putting them at odds with the rest of the Quiet Council, which the Quiet Council is comprised of. It's supposed to be 9 mutants, but they rotated out some people are no longer serving. One of them, I believe, died during Ten of Swords, and they can't bring Gorgon back. So yeah. Anyways, uh, we get a lot of stuff. We also have yeah. There's so much. You get a lot of book. I believe this is like, I don't know, 40 something, 50 pages or something. It's a pretty big book. It took me a while to read, but it was very enjoyable. So if you've been reading all the X-Men stuff until now, you don't want to miss this. Like I said, if you think if you want this to be your first X-Men book, either have a wiki page ready. Um, Marvel's usually pretty good about setting up stuff, but like I said, there's so much backstory to this. I would really recommend you at least go read. I would want you to read House of X and Powers of Ten, but if not, at least a summary of House of X and Powers of Ten. I would recommend that. But the art is beautiful. Like they really make it so you can kind of tell everything that's going on, the intentions, like the grimaces of people. That's why I put that other panel up there with, which is the disdain. I love the look of Magneto here, like and Charles, like the way. I don't know. It's just really good. Like this whole conversation goes on for a couple of pages, and it's really good. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, go check this out. We'll talk more about this. I'm sure the guys will read it too. So we'll talk more about this on the live. Big fan. I'll keep reading Inferno. It looks like it's going to be its own ongoing series, so I'm excited for that, or at least this little mini event. So yeah, but let me know. Have you read Inferno? Let me know what X-Men books you're reading. I'm pretty much reading almost everything I think that's coming out. So we got two big things going on. We have Inferno, and we have Trial of Magneto. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That's almost every Sunday, 10 a.m. Central, and where we just kind of talk about a bunch of things. October will be horror month, so we'll be doing horror stuff, starting off with horror comics on our next live. If you are a Patreon, we have a Patreon link down below. You actually get a little bit of input into those live shows now. Now we're reworking the Patreon now that we have a couple of people that we really appreciate. So one of the perks is that we will do like posts, and you can kind of give us feedback on things maybe we talk about, things we may not be aware of. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. So thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.